The well at the edge of a village had seen generations pass. It was deep and narrow, with stones worn smooth by countless hands. At dawn on this particular morning, a returning soldier without his uniform came to fill his canteen. His name was Takashi. He walked slowly, shoulders slumped under the weight of recent years. Near the well stood an old farmer who had not left the village since his youth. Kiyoshi tended to fields that had belonged to his ancestors for centuries but now seemed too vast and empty without his son to work them. He watched as Takashi approached, head bowed slightly, like a man remembering something he'd forgotten. Takashi filled his canteen with water from the well and started to leave, hands trembling ever so slightly. Kiyoshi noticed this and called out softly, "A moment, soldier." The word soldier felt strange on his lips now, as if time had shifted things out of place. Takashi stopped, turning back towards the farmer with a hesitant smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. He held the canteen in one hand, dripping water onto the ground below them. Kiyoshi gestured towards an old wooden bench under the shade of an oak tree nearby. "Sit down and rest," he said simply. Takashi complied without argument or question. For a while, neither spoke. The world was quiet except for birds beginning their morning song and the distant murmur of early risers stirring within the village walls. It was in this silence that something shifted between them, a shared acknowledgement of loss and survival. Kiyoshi broke the stillness by reaching into his pocket and pulling out a small, dried carrot wrapped carefully in paper. He handed it to Takashi, who accepted it with both hands, surprised at its simple offering. "Take care," Kiyoshi said gently. Takashi unwrapped the carrot slowly, holding it close to his face for a moment before bringing it up to his lips. The act felt intimate, almost reverent. It was the first time since returning that he had accepted help without thinking about how he could give something back in return. He offered Kiyoshi half of the carrot, which he declined with a shake of his head and another quiet smile. "No need," he said. "Just remember to take care." Takashi nodded deeply, understanding more than words ever could convey. He stood up then, canteen heavy but now full, and began walking back towards the path that would lead him out of the village. As he walked away, Kiyoshi watched silently until Takashi disappeared from sight, blending into the trees like smoke and wind. And then, Kiyoshi turned to look at his well again, seeing it not just as a source of water but also as a place where connections were made and broken daily. The morning sun caught on droplets clinging to the leaves above him. A single drop fell from a branch directly into the well's mouth with a faint plop, a sound both quiet and profound.
You're listening to the Empty Teahouse. Somewhere in the distance, a lone crow called out, its voice carried through empty fields into an evening alley lined with closed shops.
In the quiet alley between two clay walls that wind through the old part of town, a young woodcutter named Takumi returns home just as twilight settles over the earth. The alley is lined with small shops closed for the day and shutters pulled tight against the evening chill. A light rain has begun to fall, tapping softly on the cobblestones. Takumi pauses near his front door and looks around. A cat streaks by and disappears into a dark corner of an old stone wall. Beyond, a single persimmon tree stands in the courtyard of the next house, its branches bare, but for one last fruit hanging heavy with ripeness. Inside Takumi's home, a lamp flickers on. His wife Yuki is at the kitchen stove, stirring a pot. She glances up when he comes in and smiles, setting aside her spoon to help him out of his wet cloak. "Where have you been?" she asks gently. Takumi shrugs off the cloak, hangs it by the door. "Just taking my time," he says. Yuki nods. "It's good to be home," she says. The air in the kitchen is warm and fragrant with cooking spices. Takumi watches as Yuki lifts a lid from a pot of soup. Steam rises up into the light, carrying hints of ginger and soy sauce. He smiles at her quiet movements. "Do you want me to fix us something?" he asks. Yuki turns to him, holding out a bowl she has just filled with steaming broth. "Sit," she says softly. Takumi sits down opposite her at the small table. Yuki ladles soup into his bowl and then sits beside it, stirring quietly in her pot again. They eat slowly together, savoring each spoonful of rich broth and soft noodles. There is no rush. They simply enjoy their meal. Afterward, they sit in silence for a while, the sound of rain on the roof filling the room. Then Yuki stands to clear the dishes. As she begins to wash them at the sink, Takumi rises too, going over to help her. He takes the soap and begins scrubbing some stubborn marks from their plates. "Are you tired?" she asks without looking up. "No," he says quietly. "Just thinking." Yuki dries her hands on a towel and moves past him to set out the bowls neatly in the cupboard. Takumi follows, placing his own dishes away with care. When everything is put back, Yuki turns off the light above them and leads him through another small door into their bedroom. There, she lights 2 candles sitting by the bed. The room fills with a soft golden glow that shadows dance along the walls as the candle flames flicker. Takumi feels her presence behind him as he undresses silently. When they lie down under the covers, Yuki nestles close to him. The rain continues outside, its rhythmic patter making soothing music on the tin roof above their heads. In the darkness, Takumi closes his eyes and listens. He feels Yuki's hand slip into his own, holding it lightly in hers. No words are needed. They simply lie together in warm silence, bodies close but minds free to wander. Outside, the last light of day fades away over the clay walls that guard their quiet alley, leaving only a dark expanse above filled with countless stars twinkling to life one by one in the night sky.
The tin roof whispered secrets to the night sky as lantern light cast long shadows on a village teahouse floor at dusk.
The sun had just set when Eliza stepped into the candlemaker's workshop. The room was filled with the scent of beeswax and tallow as Mr. Whitman busily worked on a large order. His fingers moved deftly around each mold, pouring melted wax with practiced ease. "Mr. Whitman," she called out softly from the doorway, "may I assist you?" He looked up, surprised but pleased by her presence. There was no one else to help today. She knew his methods well enough, having worked alongside him for years, learning how to trim wicks and press down candle ends. "Of course," he said warmly. "Come in." Eliza took a chair beside the table where half-finished candles sat upright like slender sentinels. As they worked side by side, Mr. Whitman mentioned that his wife had fallen ill again, her breathing labored but steady. He spoke of it matter-of-factly, without complaint. "I'm sorry to hear," Eliza said quietly. She didn't offer condolences or suggestions. She simply took over the task of dipping wicks into wax, leaving him free to focus on more intricate candles for church services. Hours passed in silence, broken only by the occasional drip of molten wax onto the table. The air cooled as dusk deepened into night, but Mr. Whitman and Eliza kept at their work until the last candle was complete. They carefully set them aside to harden before sealing up orders for delivery tomorrow. When they were done, Eliza helped him wrap the candles securely in brown paper and tied leather straps around each stack. She placed a hand on his shoulder, feeling the rough texture of days-old stubble beneath her fingers. He nodded at her silently, then turned to collect more beeswax from storage barrels. In the corner stood an old wooden box filled with spare candle parts, snuffed ends, twisted wicks, remnants of failed attempts. Mr. Whitman often muttered about waste, yet rarely threw anything away. Now he pulled out a few discarded candles and carefully reworked them into simpler forms, using up every last bit. As she watched him reshape the imperfect shapes into something serviceable once more, Eliza realized how much patience it took to continue through such mundane tasks with care, especially under weight of sorrow. She thought about her own losses, her only child taken too young, and felt a pang in her chest that never fully faded away. But now she found herself reaching out not just to help him but also for the comfort in shared labor. In seeing how he handled his burdens day after day without complaint or drama, they said nothing more, their mutual silence speaking volumes as they cleaned up and prepared to close shop. Before leaving, Eliza paused by the wooden box of leftovers again, noticing a small candle with an odd curve that looked almost like a smile. She picked it up and tucked it into her pocket, thinking she might light it someday for quiet reflection. Mr. Whitman finished locking up behind them. The click of the bolt sounded final yet not quite so in the still night air outside. As they walked back to their respective homes under starlight, no words were necessary between them, only the knowledge that some burdens are borne together in quiet solidarity.
The lantern flame swayed once, then steadied again, in a courtyard where two paths meet under soft rain and mud.
In the village tea house at dusk, light from flickering lanterns cast long shadows on the worn wooden floor. A herbalist sat alone in a corner, counting dried roots that had been laid out before her. Beside her was a small bowl of water into which she occasionally dipped her fingers to cool them. The air smelled faintly of wet earth and tea leaves. Outside, children's laughter drifted through the open windows as they played games under the watchful eyes of parents and grandparents who gathered around steaming bowls of rice porridge. Inside, the herbalist's thoughts turned inward as she paused in her counting, looking up at a spider weaving its intricate web high above in the rafters. The door creaked open, admitting a slight breeze carrying with it the scent of rain-soaked earth and pine needles from nearby hills. A returning soldier entered without his uniform, eyes scanning the room until they fell on the herbalist. She noticed him right away but continued her work, as if lost in concentration. He made his way slowly across the floorboards and slid onto a bench opposite her. There was no greeting or explanation, both knew what silence meant here. He took a deep breath and then exhaled softly, staring at the water droplets clinging to the edge of the herbalist's bowl. "Is it worth it?" he finally asked, voice barely above a whisper. The question hung in the air between them for several moments before she met his eyes. "It is what it is," she replied simply, lifting her gaze from the roots and offering him a gentle smile. "Everything passes." He nodded slowly, absorbing the answer even as he searched for more words to ask but found none. Instead, he picked up a fallen pine needle near his feet and ran its length between his fingers, tracing along the ridges and grooves. Outside, darkness had begun to fall, casting everything in shadows. The herbalist placed her last root into a bag made from rice paper and tied it closed with string, setting aside her work for now. She looked across at him again. "Time moves on," she said quietly. He put down the pine needle and reached out tentatively as if to touch the web above them but stopped short of it, fingers hovering just inches away before dropping back into his lap. A cricket somewhere outside began chirping loudly in the stillness. "I have been thinking about this place I saw," he began hesitantly. "A field where nothing grows except for the thickest grasses and weeds." "Yes," she prompted softly. "A farmer comes every morning with a rake to weed them all out, but by evening they've returned thicker than before," he continued, as if speaking aloud his thoughts. "He never gives up though. He returns day after day, year after year. Each day is its own moment," the herbalist responded gently. "Some are more clear than others." The soldier leaned forward slightly, elbows on knees, eyes fixed on the floor between them. After a while, he reached out and picked up one of her dried roots from where they lay on the bench, holding it in his palm for several long seconds before letting go. "Good night," he murmured finally, pushing himself back to stand up straight. The herbalist watched him leave without saying another word, feeling the cool evening air wash over them both as the door closed behind him once more. She picked up her bag and followed suit, stepping into the darkened alley beyond the tea house where night held its breath against the walls. Inside, only the sound of a cricket song lingered in the hush of early evening.
The coin's edge caught the light as he turned to walk away, leaving behind the gate and the rain, while lanterns flickered nearby.
The rain had softened the forest path to mud. Near a gate where two paths meet stood an old woman and a young man. The woman's hands were chapped, her nails thick with dried earth. She wiped them against her apron as she waited for him. "Why are you here?" he asked, surprised by her appearance. He had seen the sign asking for help, but didn't expect her. "I saw your note," she said quietly. "I'm just passing through." The young man looked at his shoes where mud clung like memories. A week ago, this gate would have been shut against him and his empty hands. Now he held a single wooden flute with cracks along its length. "Thank you for coming," he offered again. She nodded once, but said nothing as she watched the rain slide from her apron into puddles at her feet. "You're not what I expected," he said then, trying to fill the space between them that grew larger in silence. "Most who leave notes are young and hopeful." The woman's mouth curved slightly, as if remembering something lost, but not forgotten. She spoke slowly, choosing each word with care. "I was younger than you once, and more full of myself. The forest has a way of changing your thoughts." He looked at her then, really seeing the lines on her face and the weariness in her eyes. Her hands had worked hard to shape lives for nearly 5 decades. "I have nothing," he said finally, handing over his flute. She took it gently, cradling it as if it were made of glass or gold. "Sometimes we give up what's broken before we learn its true value." He nodded, feeling the weight lift off him like a wet blanket. "Thank you for your time," she murmured, her voice soft and kind. She turned to leave, but stopped suddenly, turning back to face him. "I'll take this," she said, holding out her hand. "It's not much, but it might help." In her palm lay one of the coins from her day back. He felt the chill of the metal against his skin as he took it. The gate creaked open when she pushed it. The old woman passed through without looking back, leaving only a small splash in the puddle beside him to show where she stood. He listened to her footsteps fade until the forest swallowed them whole. He felt lighter somehow, though no less alone. Then he looked down and saw that his hand was still closed around the coin. It glinted faintly in the gray light as if it too had a story to tell him.
A quiet gate in a rain-wet forest path. The light of evening fades with each step taken into the unknown. The tea house closes for the night. Until tomorrow.